I'm going to try to present to you a coherent presentation or message on how I view the world with this short video piece. So, what has this got to do with this particular piece? Got to do with, what is the area of focus, let's say, for this video piece? And I'll say it revolves around this problem, that there are systems in our society whose existence is real and whose influence and effect is real. Take, for example, the education system, that are archaic and outdated in the sense that they emerged at a time during human history when they were necessary. And at that time during human history, they were sort of at the cutting edge of what was needed. And so they were adapted to those particular times during human history. So what was taught in the education system then probably applied, when people back then were illiterate and couldn't write. They were teaching them how to read and write, and that was necessary for, society to progress, society to move forward in some way. That same education system exists more or less in the same form in today's day and age, to me is evidence that something has gone terribly wrong, because today's day and age is significantly different in terms of the technologies we have available to us, and the likes of these things, than the world back then when this education system arose. And yet the education system itself hasn't evolved much to adapt itself to today's day and age. So that's an example of this archaic system still influencing society in some way, which I think is doing more harm than good. Because if you equip people with an epistemological or conceptual toolkit that is adapted to a past world, and you expect them to apply it to today's day and age, I can't help but see how that's going to cause more harm than do good. But the same can be said for government. The current manifestation of how we govern ourselves, how we being people in Western Europe, let's say, or the modern world, that particular form of government arose at a time in human history when perhaps it was adapted to the world back then, but it has failed to evolve and adapt itself to today's day and age, today's modern world. I think about this example often. I think, all right, the rate at which problems that regulatory bodies have to deal with arise nowadays is far greater. It's much faster than it was when those regulatory bodies first arose. And so back in the day when those bodies first arose, maybe they could stay on top of each new risk and problem arising and regulate it such that it didn't cause damage going forward to society. But nowadays, the rate at which problems arise is much greater, and so the regulatory bodies can't keep up. So for every problem that they managed to solve and regulate, there's 10 more that they missed, because during the time it took for them to regulate this one problem, those 10 arose and kicked on. So we're lucky, we're blessed to be living in these times. Should this realization become more widespread, then we people, relatively young people who have a lot more life ahead of us. Me, I'm 25, I know I have a lot more life ahead of me. Fingers crossed anyway. Now, it's almost incumbent upon us as people whose lives are, who have a lot more life ahead of them, to do something about this. If we see the problem and we say, oh my God, these archaic systems are outdated and they are not sufficient for doing what they claim to do, on the label, education system claims to educate people and adapt them to the world as it is, such that they might prosper in that world, and that the education system as it currently stands isn't doing that. So now we can see, okay, there's a place where we can help catalyze change, and we can help create the system that actually serves that function. We can almost adapt that old system to the modern world by considering what needs to be changed and what can be just shed, done away with. That's why I think we live in a blessed time, and we're so lucky. Should we choose to accept this responsibility to really shake things up such that we can adapt ourselves as a society to the modern world, then I think we can do it. But it takes first that realization and a fleshing out of the problem as comprehensively as possible, so that we understand where it is that we need to change things. And then it takes the energy to actually go in there and change these things. And that's why I think we're very lucky to live in these chaotic and strange times.